All right, and welcome to the Assets and Algorithms podcast, the show where we explore the intersection of real estate and technology. I have my guest with me, Jordan Page from Camelback Group. Thanks for joining me today, Jordan.
Happy to be here, man. I want to thank you for reaching out and extending the invite. I love talking about tech and AI especially, so I'm ready. Let's dive in.
All right, awesome. So I want to start just by asking you to share a bit more about your role at Camelback Group and how you're helping your team stay ahead of the rapidly shifting market.
Sure. Well, I run a real estate team at the Camelback Group, and for about 6.5 years prior, I was a solo agent. And I recognize that when I go to listing appointments, I'm up against entire teams with multiple people in specialized roles. Like there's listing coordinators and transaction coordinators versus just me, a guy. And I wasn't in a position yet to be able to hire on those people, but I still want to be able to compete and show that I can do everything they can do. And so the easy solution to that lately has been AI, right? You have AI filling those gaps to where instead of increased manpower, you have increased, computer agentic power. So that was kind of one of the first light bulbs for me. And then it got to a point to where other agents would want to learn under me, and I had an excess of leads for them to be able to work. So I brought in one agent, and then the next, and the next, and now I've hired four. So we're still relatively small, but before hiring an admin, we'll probably get to about 6 or 7 agents, and that's in this industry pretty rare to get six performing agents without an admin. AI is making it possible.
Awesome. And I love to hear that. I think that's one of the core reasons that I started this podcast to have conversations with the people that are implementing the technology that is really pushing their teams forward. So I love that. You, I did a little bit of digging on you, and I saw that your work spans from residential and commercial real estate. Tell me a little bit about what a typical day looks like for you with your small team and um, how do you guys balance that?
Well, we're 100% remote. I actually got rid of the office last year. So I'll go through my morning routine, right? You wake up, go hit the gym, dip my face in Saratoga water like Ashton Hall. I'm kidding. Routine. I get in. I usually start my day around 8 to 8:30, and I'll start hitting calls. Usually I'll put a light on, and we use Work Vivo. It's uh, a team platform. So they can know when my open office hours are, when they aren't. I check in with my team around 9 or 10. Some of them work 9 to 5. Some of them are full time. So they all have different pipelines and different sort of things they want to get out of their real estate career. So we typically have a weekly meeting every Monday. Other days, it's just spot checking who needs what. And I'll work through my calls in the morning. My appointments are typically early afternoon. And then if I don't have any later showings, I try to hit back to prospecting again in the afternoon. Throughout sort of the middle of the day is my deliverables where, I need to create a listing presentation or create a marketing report, etc. That's been for me what I want to save the most time doing because I like to be belly to belly. The highest and best use of our time as humans is being other humans making sales. So the reason I've used tech mostly is not for making the calls for me, but instead of doing the busy work like the note taking, the admin, etc.
Absolutely. I think that's a great point, right? Implementing these tools to be able to do those, mundane, repetitive tasks really gives us the opportunity to focus on the people and provide the best experience for them, especially when they're making such large purchases. Most people in the residential space, it'll be the largest purchase they ever make in their life. So that's awesome to hear. And it sounds like you were early adapter. I want you to talk a little bit about how the technology, especially the automation and the AI tools, have impacted the way that you grow your business or think about scale, and which tools specifically have you been leveraging?
One of the first tools I used was Motion for a calendar. It's an app that is part project manager and part automatically shifting calendar. It was a personal assistant for me. I just put in tasks into it. It would recommend time blocks for me to actually do those tasks in depending on the rest of my schedule. And if something came up, it would shift in real time, which is pretty cool. I have this theory on AI and sales in general where people want to know it's a person. So I know there's a lot of agentic AI now that's making phone calls for people and whatnot. I try to steer clear of that because I feel like if they know it's a human, it's so much more impactful. If they know it's a robot, they'll just hang up. Like they don't feel bad hanging up on a machine. So I actually use, believe it or not, I program Claude AI with something called an empathic voice interface to where it can read the tone of your voice and respond. And I have it play characters for our role play for our team. So instead of lengthy training on how to run a sale, I've programmed Claude via the empathic voice interface to
Hmm.
be our role play partner. So now instead of I take some of the weight off myself as a coach, so I can
Hmm.
actually still be in the field making sales, which as a small team leader you have to do.
Absolutely.
But instead of having an individual coach with them or taking two agents off of sales to train each other, now they have a role play partner 24/7. As we go through it, it teaches itself. So it's incredibly realistic. But this way, on their own time, separately, they can actually get all the training they need. Yeah, outside of taking up my time or the team members' time. So that's in a way, it's kind of one small piece of how we scale, but the roadblocks and the bottlenecks a lot of the times is human time. And so if you can sort of bypass that with AI, I think that's going to be the game changer.
That's awesome. I actually haven't heard that one. I think that's really creative the way you've so found that that technology exists and use it in that really practical way. Because we all need coaching, we all need practice, right? Even, if you've been in the industry for a ton of time, it never hurts to practice and to have that available 24/7
Yeah.
is one of the great benefits.
Well, I'm sure you've probably seen ads for a sales AI that'll make calls via voice
Hmm.
to prospects and qualify them. But if someone's really paying attention, they know it's AI. Like the way there's a pause between what it says and the inflection in the voice isn't quite there. But it knows what to say, it can recognize responses, and it can actually recognize your voice tone to see, whether it should push or pull, etc. And so I think as an outbound sales agent, people will know it's AI, so it loses its punch. But as a trainer, if we know it's AI, but we're practicing it as if it were a person, those things don't really matter. But if we know it's a computer trading in, if it can give us a realistic look and hard objections, and I programmed it even to have some unwinnable scenarios where you have to be able to exit gracefully and get their email and go through that process. So I think when it comes to training and scale and admin side, where everyone knows it's an AI and that's okay, that's where I really want to lean into it. Instead of, I think a lot of sales culture is leaning towards using AI instead of a human to make the sales. I kind of go the other way and use it as a training tool.
No, that's awesome. I like that. And it sounds like it's working well for you. You've mentioned some of the admin things internally that it's able to do, and that's working well also, aside from the training. I'd love to hear about some of those bottlenecks or those roadblocks that you talked about. What's been frustrating for you growing and scaling your business using technology?
Well, the first thing was it's almost like if you have your web browser set up in a certain way, like you have your tabs, you have your bookmarks, everything makes sense to you. But then if you wanted to train someone else to do that, it doesn't make any sense to them because the way you
Mm,
think is unique to you. And for the longest time, being a solo agent, I didn't plan ahead for having a team, and so I was kind of building off of what I like to do, and you can't tell everyone to be, cool and charming or whatever. Not that I am, but if there was, then you can't replicate a person. So for me, it was generating SOPs that are universal enough that anyone can come in here and we can work with different personality types and, whether they're introverts, extroverts, etc., and create a training that's kind of right for them. Uh,
mm.
and hiring right's part of it, but even if you can hire a certain kind of person, they're going to have differences in how they prefer to work. And as independent contractors, real estate agents, I don't have as much control over their daily operations. So I need to create a framework that's flexible for them, but also creates a standard of service we can give to our clients that's as good as if I were doing it myself.
Nice. I think that's really insightful, being able to customize it not only to do what you needed to do, but also to the person that it's actually going to serve is really where it's going, and it adds a little bit of a human touch. And I think also what you said about it not replacing humans, I don't think it will replace humans, but you also have a phrase where you emphasize AI may replace underperforming agents. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So there's a lot of agents had kind of relied on a certain system, thinking it would always be there, right? So for example, a typical buyer's agent comes onto a team. On the team, the top dogs are the listing agents because they've I guess they paid their dues or what have you, and they run the listings. And then the people who are with the buyers typically who specialize in that are going to be the less senior agents, the more newcomers. Also, it takes a while to ramp up a recurring book of business in real estate. So if you have a buyer's agent who say gets a lead off of Zillow or wherever or Google or wherever they're looking for homes, that buyer's agent probably is less tenured. They may only have 2 or 3 transactions a year. And so they'll just kind of show up, not try to mess anything up, open the door. How do you ask them how you like it? And then just kind of like follow this buyer around and sort of insert themselves into the commission equation. That model is kind of eroding, right? Because you already have iBuyers like Open Door, et cetera, that can have buyers directly go into the home, input a special code, go in and view it themselves, and then make an offer. And I think that whether you can combine it with like Ring or some sort of like camera technology, low performing agents can get replaced by AI because AI can find the homes, it can schedule showings, it can unlock doors even if you apply it the right way. It can make sure that legal documentation is done correctly and that everything's compliant. So if someone's not bringing additional value, and like, how are the schools? How's the neighborhood? Is there noise coming from the road? Um, is there a weird view from here that's not in these photos? AI is not going to be able to pick up on these elements that are kind of human, right? Because a machine's picking a great location, it might look at metrics that can be recorded on paper, but it can't pick up like a vibe or a feeling or which view is more beautiful than another view. Yeah, I mean,
Absolutely.
it may soon, but I think that if you're bringing real value and real service, then you're really setting yourself apart. And the weirdest thing about this is that people are leaning towards efficiency with AI, efficient this, efficient everything. But people also know that the value is in the inefficiencies. Like that's kind of why automated email is thrown away, but a handwritten letter is like so special now because people know it's inefficient and it makes them feel special.
Absolutely. I think that's a great point. When I was realtor myself, I wrote a ton of handwritten letters as opposed to printing them out because it does add that personal touch. Like someone thought about you specifically. In many cases, that's exactly what it is, and that's what sets you apart from the pack. I want to shift a little bit to performance, right? You're a performance driven leader, and I'm curious, which key metrics or indicators would you say you're most focused on improving across your team and your portfolio?
For us, it's lead generation. And you can measure that in a few different ways. The old school way to do it is conversations, right? How many real estate focused conversations are you having daily with your sphere, with strangers, with leads that come in? And then you can kind of distill it down from that to about every 40 conversations, you'll have a ready, willing, and able buyer or seller. And then about half the time with them, they'll be able to close. So I think if you start with at the top of the funnel and there's enough going in, and you can filter for quality, and then you can filter to make sure people are coming through correctly. But leads generated, new leads, new conversations is always, I think, top of my mind because 90 days from now, the leads you just now meet or then inquire, those are the ones you're going to be transacting. So you can kind of predict your future pipeline by the lead flow today.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and I like how you framed it as 90 days from now. The ones that you're working on today are going to be the ones that are going to be driving your revenue in that time, because definitely bringing the leads in is really impactful, but how you nurture them and drive them through that funnel to get them to the end is really, really important. And I think, new people in the business may not necessarily understand that yet, but great point, great call out.
Follow up, and actually, it's a really good segue. I mean, we utilize a lot of automation in that. It's not
Mhm.
necessarily a new thing. Like CRMs have had automation for a really long time now. We try to mix in the automated like listing drips with emails and texts. We do have an AI assistant who will disclose they are an assistant. First of all, they're not going to pretend to be us. They call it some of the virtual assistant, which it could be a human, it could not be a human, but say, hey, so I listen to some homes. I'm Ava, Jordan's virtual assistant. Here's some others you might have missed that just hit the market, and that's sent via text message. So that can work as well. And then we have reminders automatically for each person, categorically depending on the lead and when they're transacting and their timeline, like hot, warm, cold, et cetera, within the CRM. But nurturing something we kind of like hammer on the agents' throats. So it's not something I'm as concerned about. I think that yeah, lead generation is the one thing that people tend to forget about, especially if they get busy with their current lead flow. If they get
Mhm.
so bogged down with their nurturing or their current deals, and then they're proud they have like a big listing that's going through, but they lose sight of the prospecting and it actually got them there. Probably just blow their money on a couple nights out in the club or something, and then they'll be broke in 90 days. So we need to make sure that they keep doing that. That's why for me, lead gen is number one KPI.
No, I love that. I think you have to keep cranking that machine, right? Keep getting those leads coming in. So last question, let me ask, zooming out a bit, where do you see Camelback Group headed in the next 6 to 12 months, especially with all these innovations on the table and the growth that you guys are seeing?
Well, one thing I've really been looking at, because we joined a brokerage called Real, which is a international brokerage, Canada and the US, I think 25, 26,000 agents strong. It's possible to have a team that spans multiple countries now. And so being able to have a lot of media out there and doing cool videos and podcasts like this, um, what I want to do is actually create a team that's localized here, but also have an expansion team that can be literally anywhere and still be able to package our products and the coaching and the methods that we use and offer them to agents around the rest of the US and Canada. We just had our first agent who was in Tucson, which is about 90 minutes from here. So it's close enough to kind of spot check, but also further enough away to where we're kind of testing this concept of having a remote real estate team, which is pretty rare, as you know, as a former agent. A lot of people watching this, if they're not familiar with real estate, they might think, well, everyone's remote. But real estate, most teams are very localized. So being able to do this long distance, but still have the feeling of a cohesive team together, like with the Slack rooms or Google Meet, or there's a few others like that. I think that's something people need, especially if they're off on their own or in a rural area. Having the sense of community is something that I think is lacking. And if they're not really feeling the old school team model, then we could be the ticket for them.
That's beautiful. I think that's definitely where team building and real estate brokerages are heading. Being able to have remote teams and being able to allow those teams to continue to stick together using some of the tools that you mentioned. So yeah, that sounds like a bright future for you guys, and I'm excited that you guys are at the forefront of that, man. Thank you for those insights. Anything you want to add?
No, thanks for having me on. I hope I was able to give you guys some value. I guess for me, I want to harp on the AI. People will still know it's AI for a while, for a few more years. So the temptation is you replace people with AI, but I think using AI as an assistant where people more or less know it's an assistant to help you scale and help you get rid of busy work. That's, to me, that's at least the number one piece of information I would like to spread to the world.
I love it, man. And I 100% agree with that. Let people know where they can find you, where they can reach out to you if they want to continue the conversation.
Sure. My top social right now, I think, is still Instagram. So it's at the Jordan Page. That's Jordan, the first name, Page, my last name. And then on YouTube, we're the Camelback Group. You can find all of our listing videos, etc., and media on YouTube as well.
Sounds great. Again, thank you for joining me, Jordan. You definitely provided some insights, and this has been another episode of Assets and Algorithms.
Thanks, Derek.